Hello. Did you notice that propaganda very often doesn't set the goal to convince us in anything? Very often, the main point of it is to lead the viewer to understanding that there's no truth, that everybody is lying, that everybody has his own truth, and it depends only which side are you on. But in reality, humankind has a lot of ways to find truth in different conditions, in different situations, and I want to tell you about one of them, with cats, of course. Let's start, for a change, not with history, but with that picture that has been floating around the web for a while. It creatively pushes a very simple idea that everything depends upon our point of view, our sympathies, our likes and dislikes. In reality, the warring sides do not differ. One wants often to take that picture and to observe all the world conflicts through that picture, including the war between Russia and Ukraine. Think about it. Ukrainian troops liberating their territories, saying that they liberated. Russian side calls liberation when they capture Ukrainian territories. Ukrainian side is calling Russian side occupants. Kremlin is calling Ukrainians occupants. Ukraine considers Donbass and Crimea their own territories. And Putin, in return, claims that the whole Ukraine is theirs. It is our historic lands and we are liberating them. So, whose is what and who's right? To answer this question, let's take a simple example. Imagine you have an apartment. How do you know that it's yours? Because you live there? Well, you could be thrown out and somebody else will be there. Maybe you have a certificate to own it, but the paper can be forged. You could print 10 of them. And then what? Your apartment will have 10 new owners? In reality, your right of ownership is recorded in the government registry of real estate. You may choose to live in your apartment, to not live, to let your friends in, to rent it out, to let your relatives live there, but it still remains yours. And it's an important function of the government and the country institutes to trace these records. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of quarrels. Who lived there, who decorated that, who owns the place. That's why government acts as an arbiter when any issues arise related to the property ownership. Who owns the country house, who owns the apartment, who owns the building, and who owns the land. But what happens when such an argument arises between two governments, two countries, when they quarrel about the land? There is no registry that would have it written in black and white, the owner of each square kilometer, square mile of the land. That means both sides have their own truth and they have territorial arguments with each other, and what, both are okay? No, it doesn't work like that. Such registry exists. It is called international recognition. In absence of the top arbiter that would be above the governments and would be resolving these issues, such an arbiter is agreed upon to be a joint body. It's as if the registry of ownership would be led not by the government, but the assembly of the residents of the building. How just is that? Perhaps it would be just right to give everybody their own lands and to not worry about who recognizes whom and which borders. Problem is that whichever land you take, it'll be contested by a lot of countries. Same Crimea was Greek, was Turkish, was belonging to even Tatars back in the day. The lands changed hands, some countries disappeared, others appeared, and today each people have their own opinion which period is just and which is not, and which is a historic confusion that should be plain out forgotten. And attempt to give everyone everything is doomed. It will just lead to a lot of conflicts and death, as it had a lot of times before. And after the scariest war of the 20th century, people of our planet decided enough. Since then, our world has an active principle of border security. That means that borders can be changed only with agreement of both parties, but not by military measures and pressure. Now let's get back to Ukraine and Crimea. Out of 197 countries of the world, the peninsula of Crimea was recognized to be Russian by 6: North Korea, Afghanistan, Venezuela, Cuba, Syria, and Nicaragua. To understand the proportion, their population is 1.6 of the global population, and their GDP is 1.4% of global GDP. And regarding the quasi-people's republics of Donetsk and Lugansk regions, only Syria and North Korea acknowledge them. So, borders of Ukraine, it's not some private Ukrainian position. It is an ironclad consensus of this world, and there are no contested territories there. Ukraine is fighting on its own territory, and Russia is fighting on a foreign land. Ukrainian troops are liberating their territories, and Russian occupants are capturing them. This is not the play of words, they're real facts. The borders will not move even by an inch, even if the country will be occupied by another country. You cannot change that with referendums and orders arranged in violation of the laws of Ukraine. You can reference historical events, reprint your books, change courts, and do other things in Russia, but nothing will change. Russia, under Putin's leadership, tried to take somebody else's land, and it will have to be returned, regardless of what Russia thinks. Have a good day.